Dyskontowe asy w Netto. Teraz cytryna w siatce tylko 2,99 za 500 gramów, a ptasie mleczko Wedel 50%
I played a lot of top lane as well. I played ADC. Support is the only one that I haven't played, but I know what a mid laner wants from a support at the same time. So I think I've just gotten smarter about other roles and smarter about the game, I would say.
Are you good at taking that feedback as well? Because it sounds like you're pretty comfortable giving that feedback. Like when other people want to talk to you about mid lane or how they think you should be playing mid lane, are you also comfortable like listening to what they have to say and taking it in without ego?
Oh, for sure, for sure. I think mid lane has been played in different ways now.
Yeah.
In a lot of senses, right? But as long as it's like makes sense, you know, for both mid, because sometimes mid laners needs to drop waves.
Yeah.
Some people would hate to drop waves, I would say. And an example I would say from the LEC that would hate to drop waves would be
Larson?
No, I wouldn't say Larson actually. I
Really?
think he can drop some waves as well here and there, but I would say it's Vitio.
ETO.
Yeah, I think he wouldn't drop. He would have his own way of playing. He does have his own way of playing, you know, and just sit in lane.
I feel like, would you agree that Chovy has a similar kind of playstyle?
I would agree so, but it's like
Not as extreme?
I don't know how to say this. Like,
Flame Chovy. Just
'Cause
do it.
I feel like the-
just light Chovy. Just
Yeah.
right here. Just make our clickbaity day. Start the hate thread. for
Leader
Peter
says
early.
he would fist fight Chovy.
No, no, no.
Okay,
Straight up
okay.
Chovy.
One game that I can remember from Chovy that I didn't like from him was his Twisted Fate game. It was one Twisted Fate game where he was just farming without using his ult. One can argue that not using ult is some kind of pressure as well, because people have to play around to TF
The fact
having
that it's
ult.
OP, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I think if you don't make any plays or anything proactive with this champion, the champion's value goes down by quite a lot. Because it's not a champion that if you have 300 CS at 25 minutes, you're not going to carry the game with it.
Yep.
I think it's a facilitator, that champion, and he didn't play that correctly. But the player is really insane. I looked at his stats. I always look at his votes, and he's always insane. He deals a lot of damage, even though people say he's a AFK player. He deals a lot of damage, and if people play around him, his way of his style of playing, he will be insane.
Yeah, I agree. I think Chovy's gotten so flexible. I don't know how. Yeah, we pivoted a little bit over to
Pivot a little bit Chovy.
But yeah, his style's gotten really insane. I think the only reason I asked that question is because there's like this community sentiment that he just doesn't like to drop waves as much. So I was interested to see if maybe, because I know VTO is like a huge Chovy fanboy. Like he loves it. I think that was his name in solo queue.
His
Chovy
his
enjoyer.
Twitter bio is literally, "I will be the next Chovy, I promise."
Yeah, so I was wondering, maybe there's a correlation there. Maybe he just studies his VODs all day, and then when he sees him not drop waves, maybe that's why he just does what Chovy would do in that situation.
I mean, Chovy's a good player. It's respectable. But I do like this. If you hold it up, you get pressure. That's what I'm going to say when I play Blitzcrank. I'm just never going to throw a hook. And I'll be like, guys, I'm creating pressure.
Works.
Works.
It works.
They
It's
can't-
a
they
fine
can't.
line. You got to know to the timing of like keeping it up to the point where they can't all in you, but then knowing the timing
Yeah,
of
I'm
throwing
talking about
it.
the timing of how long I can not throw a hook before I get flamed. You know.
Just disable
How
your,
many
disable your
can
Q
I
button.
whiff and then stop hooking before people realize I'm just bad and not generating pressure?
Just playing Blitzcrank on controller.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, that's the thing about players. I would say, the game is a team game,
Yeah.
and each player, what they do, if it correlates with what your other teammate wants to do, both of them are gonna look good. But if one has one idea, the other one has something else, and they're both doing the opposite thing,
Yeah.
both of them are not gonna look good.
Do you think the game has become more team orientated? Like in 2019, do you think the game was more? I think if you look at the meta, it was more like self-skill, individual expression with Aatrox and Jason and Irelia and stuff.
There's a lot more about counter matchups too.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think the game's gotten to the point where you've been forced to learn the team game more because it's been levitating to more of a team-centric game?
I think so, yeah. I think when you look at sports, if you compare sports with the League of Legends, let's say League of Legends has been around for what now, 13 years?
Yeah.
And sports have been around for many, many, many years.
Yeah,
you know?
60, 70, 80.
So just like in sports, individual skill at the start probably mattered a lot. And then people started to do more team stuff because it was more effective.
Yeah.
Because like obviously 1 + 1 is 2, right?
Yep.
And then, but if you do something as a team, it can be multiplied instead. You know, you can do 5 × 5, and then it's 25. It's like much better than 1 + 1 or 5 + 5. You know.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same with League now. People were much more stupid before in how to play together as a team, because to start as a team in League is first you need to not be so greedy and think about tempo. So So when you base together, you're playing as a team already because you're doing something together. But let's say one guy is off tempo, then it's like harder to play as a team because
Yeah.
one guy is desynced from you.
Mm.
So I think the game evolved. People figure out more strats. Obviously, the game is changing as well with patch because you're supposed to get gold to destroy the Nexus,
Yeah.
and the most efficient way of getting gold now is different from before because in 2019 there were no plates.
Yep.
So you didn't make slow plays to choke people out to take plates. Back then it was dives.
Yep.
2019 it was when
Wasn't that the meta where like
FPX, yes.
yeah, like a wave would stack, you dive bot, and then you die, and on the bounce you had to re-dive them or you were
Yes.
screwed,
Yes,
and it was
exactly.
just a non-stop.
Exactly. People didn't get punished for it as well, you know. Now, I think the most optimal way of playing now is just choking people out, pushing mid, sitting in fog, let your bot lane hit the tower. Someone needs to come and cover. Obviously, if you see the enemy jungler, you just dive them, and then you base instantly, or like take some plates, base, slow push back, maybe gank, or like
Yeah.
make another slow push and dive again, and take plates, you know. All the time, you just take plates.
Siema Hunter, siema.
Back, and now, but back then, you just dove. You just dive. And jungle was different. Jungle is always changing.
Yeah.
So it's like so many things that are getting changed, you know, and you have to optimize stuff in different patches. But I think in the end, the game has evolved into a much more team-oriented game than it was individual.
Yeah. And I think that's every player we have on here who, you know, talks about the game. It used to be you talk about your role very specifically. And like when we started this podcast in 2017, mostly people talked about their role. This is what I want to do. This is mid laner. Now every single person who comes on, when we talk about other roles, they're like, oh yeah, I also need to understand how every other lane works. And that makes me a better player, and that's something that is significant and important.
Yeah.
Whereas back in the day, I feel like you used to be able to just get away with, this is how my lane works, this is what I need.
I'm in my own lane.
Yeah, like season 3, season 4, season 5, you're like, no, you didn't know. You didn't know how their lane works. Shit, they might not have known how their lane works,
Yeah.
to be fair. There's
Yeah.
kind of a Wild West back then. It was a very different game, but I feel like now there's this, you can't just understand mid lane if you want to be a top level mid laner. You can't just understand jungle if you want to be a top level jungle. You really need to have at least a baseline understanding of what everyone else needs to be doing or needs, I think. Otherwise, I just think the communication in game is so hard. If you know your top laner needs to catch that wave, they have to catch that wave, then you're not going to ask them a stupid question like, hey, can you come bottom? You know. Or if you know what you're asking. You're like, hey, I understand that I'm griefing them right now,
Yeah.
but I need your ass bottom.
And then they hopefully will understand because
Yeah.
they know your role. And
Yeah,
they know
yeah.
how doomed you are if you lose this massive stacked wave just to your own bot. Yeah. It's interesting. I wonder which direction the game will go in. Not to get too into the weeds of it, but like in 13.6, there's like a dragon nerf. You know, I think if objectives slowly start to get nerfed, you go regressing back into that individual style.
But I think that ultimately, you know, based on what you said, Leader, it's just like the variables of how you get gold are going to change. But ultimately, it's still going to be, if it becomes all about mid, let's say, for example, then everyone's just aware of that, and like everyone has to play around that. It's never gonna be again the way that it was season 2, season 3, where it was like, oh, Wicked Aurelia, you know, like one player on their signature champion completely dominating.
Yeah.
Even though you had this great dominant game, it still also comes down to your mid laner, or your jungler rather, living next to you, ready to fight. You know what I mean? Like
Champion specific, once
Actually,
again.
yeah, champion.
I remember you're the classic support diff kind of player. You know, you're all-in mid, support comes first, just open support gap. So I guess having someone like Yonghoon on your team must feel great. Like I feel like Kobe Yonghoon has just been probably one of the best bot lanes we've got in the league.
Oh, they're insane. They're consistent and they're really insane, I think, both of them. But before we touch on them, I would like to add on to the Chovy and the lanes part, right? I watch his VODs all the time, and most of his VODs is actually not about mid lane. He's either playing Velvet support 5 games in a row, or playing Ornn top lane or
In
something.
solo queue?
Yes, in solo queue. I'm like, ooh, I'm here to watch a mid laner, not a top lane or support, you know. So that's one thing, and the other thing is, just because it's a team-oriented game, so individual skill doesn't matter as much. So that's why you can see, I would say, Fnatic and Excel struggling so much. True. Compared to SK, let's say, because on paper, if you, because Excel members have played LEC and gone international events much longer, much more. So individually, they should be better with all the experience, different players they played against. But SK is just better because I think if you don't mesh well together as 5 players, you're gonna struggle no matter how good you are individually. Because I don't know why people are looking down on Humanoid. I'm like reading subreddit, for example, you know, like Fnatic subreddit. I think it's really, really funny. It's like the most extreme subreddit there is. It's like always funny. And then I see that Humanoid should be gone. They need a more consistent mid laner. Like, this is unplayable. But the guy is top mid laner.
Yeah.
He's
In the
one of the
LeBlanc
best.
against Vitality, I think he was doing pretty well, just turning around in this collapse.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Is that like when a team is performing or winning games, more often than not, everyone on the team looks good. And when a team is losing games, everyone looks bad.
Yeah.
And you can either look bad in the way where you try to make plays so you look like an inner, or you can look bad where you do nothing because you can't really do anything, and then you look like you're doing.
Yeah, having that mindset of like, this game is lost, let's just do this and see if we can like maybe win. And then once you do it, you look even stupider because you lose faster. And
That
everyone's
was
like,
me against SK. That was me.
just ins to try and get back in the game.
Yeah.
And then you get more flack for it, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one more thing on philosophy before we talk more about kind of Astralis and how this process has been for you. How do you kind of sell your League of Legends philosophy to your teammates? Because obviously you're a pretty unique player. You have a unique champion pool, mostly centered around a lot of these like high impact assassins or skirmish heavy champions, roam heavy champions. You talked about it already, but like, how do you get a new team on board with you? Because you talked about like it's really important that you mesh, but not only are you worrying about trying to mesh with new teammates, you're also, I think more often than not, probably trying to sell them on the way that you want to play mid lane, which isn't as simple as, hey, this is a good meta champion, let's play the good, this is what the LCK is playing, let's play this. It's like more than that. So how do you actually like get people on board with the way that you like to play?
I mean, I think they are probably already on board when they're trying to find a new mid lane, or they kind of have to be on board because there's no better choice, I guess. And obviously, I can see, if I was from management perspective, I can see the risk in me.
Yeah.
But so I think they were on board already with me. They knew what they were getting.
Yeah.
And obviously, I have to perform as well, make them trust in me with my gameplay. I think I did a good job of that in scrims and whatnot, and explaining my thought process, because I'm just not gonna play the game brainlessly without knowing myself what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I tell my process. People can agree, people cannot agree, but I think it works.
Yeah.
And it works because it's good. So there's not really much to sell, As long as it works, you win games, you get a lead, and you're playing the game good. It's gonna work. It's not that hard, I would say. Let's say I was inting, all the time, then it would be another thing, because obviously there are some suboptimal champions. I would say I picked one in the last game. Xylas was more of a suboptimal champion, even though the situation was really, really good. But I think the other champions that I play, they're good, but people just haven't really caught up on it that much, or that fast yet, Just like Gragas has been broken for so long, and people are playing Gragas mid lane now, People take some time to pick up champions. Kled as well, G2 started playing it, and now suddenly, wow, maybe the champion is actually not that bad.
Yeah.
He just needs to
Malphite.
shit champion. That champion doesn't do anything. Literally, it doesn't do anything. It's legit just a troll pick here at this point.
Is this the point where it's like, people tell you Gragas mid 4 weeks ago, and you're like, that's terrible, And Caps has now played 2 Malphite games, and in maybe a couple weeks you're like, wait, Malphites are broken. Maybe you're in that mindset, leader.
Damn, that's messed up. You're scared of Uno
I don't know.
reverse, buddy.
I don't know what to say. I think Malphite mid is troll. That's what.
Malphite mid is troll?
But I think mid lane doesn't matter that
But
much.
what if it's
so
into Jace?
Can be good.
Can be good.
Can be
Also,
good.
your team comp was full AD when you picked Malphite.
Yeah. It was full AD.
So it maybe has scenarios. We'll see.
But was it really full AD though?
Well, I guess it already has slightly hybrid. I don't remember the full draft.
We had Leona Sejuani, so they had to choose Mercs.
Was it
I
just
had
double AD? I think you had like Renekton.
Renekton, Aurelia, Sejuani with Zaya and Leona. That was
Yeah.
her comp.
Yeah.
And enemy's only tank was Malphite. And let's say all of them go tank. Let's say the Jarvan goes tank as well. Then they
Where's their
only have
damage?
they have 2 damage dealers.
Yeah.
Okay, 3. Heimer.
Haha, it's like the one-up comp. It's like, yes, we're full AD, but if you build armor, then you have to damage.
Yeah.
It's like,
And they have
I
to
like
choose
that.
between Mercs and Tabis this game.
I mean, the second you pop off on Aurelia, just your enemy team's life just becomes hell. They're like, well, we can build 0 damage, and then Aurelia's just gonna lifesteal through everything and dunk on us, or we can build damage, and then if we mess up once, she's gonna one-shot us.
I heard the
Yeah, I held back.
nice restraint. Love
Yeah,
to hear it.
yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting because I just think that one of the things that is always going to make you exciting is you can call it Chovy, maybe you can reference Doinby, but like you are bringing something unique to mid lane, for better or for worse, you know, and we'll see in like only in hindsight will we know 100% whether or not you're right. But like there's a world where in 3 months we're like, oh damn, this dude was a prophet. Like this is how people should be playing mid lane, or like he was the guy that actually figured out a lot of these picks, that like pushed a lot of these picks in the meta. Or we'll look back and be like, damn, you're Reefer, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's always, if you're the victor, you're just, or the not the champion, the winner, right?
History's written by the winner,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
So whatever you do, if you win, you're going to be the one that has the game figured out. Because you're winning. But right now, mid lane is not that kind of role, I would say. I think right now it's all about bot lane and how your jungle plays. So if your bot jungle is working well together and mid and top does the roles, you're going to win games.
Mm.
It doesn't matter what you pick in mid lane, I think.
Is it concerning to you that like you look around the world, there's not many people playing like Irelia mid, or there's not many people playing things like Yasuo or Echo or whatever you want to play? I think in like for example LCK, I guess there's like one player is closer who plays it. Maybe you've seen his Irelia games, but barring that, no one really touches it, blinds it, counters it. Does that concern you at all? You're just like, no, I know it's good.
The thing with Irelia is it's hard to play. You need confidence. You need your team on board with it. That champion needs everyone, because there are objectives in the game, and for Irelia the objective is every single wave. Every single wave is an objective because you
have to queue onto it.
You have to queue onto it,
Yeah.
but you are really OP in the wave as well. So why not play towards that Irelia, But I don't know what the reason LCK players are not playing it. I think everyone wants to make the game as simple as possible for themselves, so there's less room for error. But I think in that sense, there's like the chance of winning can be lower as well in that way.
I mean, some people play top right into like Gnar and Jace and things, but yeah, mid is just almost non-existent.
I mean, it always feels
cool
volatile.
though.
You know what I mean? And that's I think one of the things that again makes it so exciting. But also I can see why teams, one, the immense skill that it takes to play the champion. It's obviously a very unique champion compared to Victor, right? Azir, like you actually have to learn. There's like more skill with Azir. Azir's a tricky champion. I know that like has a pretty decent mastery curve, but like
Yeah, Victor is just like about spacing really. That's kind of it. Just like making sure you're
like you still need to know what you're doing, but like anyone can pick a Victor and with 3 items and do something in a team fight. Will they play perfectly? No, but
just
you know
press
what I mean?
ER.
On Victor, you're never going to be the main reason you win the games, I think.
You
On
can't
Victor.
be.
You cannot be the main reason.
The enemy
You're just
team
there.
can be if they like 5-man into your stun.
Exactly, right? If they play into your condition, sure, but you're not.
Yeah.
You cannot create a condition for yourself on this
Yeah.
champion. That's the thing. Azir, you can.
Yeah,
That's why I
Azir
like
does
Azir.
shuffle.
Yeah, I like Azir.
What do you like?
Electrocute.
Electric.
I played it in Champions Queue a few days ago.
With Ignite Electrocute?
Yeah.
You haven't changed.
But what can I do? Enemy locked in Ezreal mid lane.
So you have to kill him?
I have to kill
Sounds
him.
like Champions Queue's going well, by the way. This does real mid lane.
I lock in Azir, enemy mid locks in Ezreal, so how can I take it serious as well? That's a little bit hypocritical because I lock in champions that gives mid laners the worst practice.
Give me an example.
Zed.
Yeah.
I just blind pick Zed in Champions Queue. And then enemy mid, are you gonna blind pick Zed in LEC as well? They write to me. And Niski locked in Fizz. And he was actually not good on it. Surprisingly.
But what happens when you play Mad Lions and blind pick Zed and Niski sitting there like, oh wait, he actually did.
No, I will, I think. I think when people write this stuff, it actually means they're scared of this stuff as well. At the same time, they're worried.
So their coping mechanism is counter trolling?
Yes.
Like picking Azir with the electrocuting knife?
It is absolutely the classic cope. You wouldn't think this in a real game.
I told you it exists in pro
yeah.
play.
I've heard this from every pro player. It's like, what do you do when G2 picks troll champs? They wouldn't pick this on stage, blah,
Exactly.
blah, blah. And it's
And
like,
then-
yeah, bro, you're 0-4. I think that
Yeah.
might be a cope angle, not a analysis angle
The
there.
cope angle goes to in-game as well, because like when they're playing super far up in the lane and they're like threatening to all in you non-stop, they're like, yeah, you wouldn't play like this on stage.
Yes. People that get stomped say this usually. If they're getting beaten up, they say, you're not gonna do this. Like, what is wrong with this guy? What is he doing? Is he gonna play like this on stage as well? Are you gonna play like this?
Yeah, I can imagine whoever scrimmed BDS with the Scion and they dove bot level 1 with the Scion taking your camps, they're probably like, yeah, they'd never do that on stage.
They'd never do it
Good
on
job
stage.
getting Scrim LP or something. That's what they would say.
Good job getting
Yeah.
Scrim LP.
Yeah.
You're climbing the ladder. And then you go on stage and wow, what a game.
Yeah.
Scrim LP. Love to see it. I want to talk about the BDS game in a moment, but yeah, let's talk more about the team. Your bot lane, obviously super cracked. Finn has been stepping up. We heard a lot last season about how he's this like great leadership personality, and now you and 113 learning to work together as a duo. My favorite stat from the weekend that you helped us find before the podcast started is that he spent he had 60% jungle proximity, 67% jungle proximity in your Koi game, 61% in your G2 game.
60% jungle proximity.
Which is, for the record, unheard of. Junglers are usually in the 40s. It's just time you spend near any ally. But seems like you guys, you said bot is important, you know? It seems like you guys are the primary duo lane. You guys are like living
I think
together.
Bot is the treasure chest, but
Yeah.
leader is the key.
What?
And you just unlock him, and he'll roam bot.
And I'm the treasure hunter, so
And his name in league is treasure hunter inside of you. So he's like you're like a pirate.
but think about it this way. Let's say we're playing towards mid.
Yeah.
And my bot lane has a bad matchup. I have a good matchup. I can either help them relieve pressure by going to that lane, or I can force enemy support to come to my lane.
Ah.
Oh.
That's one way of relieving pressure. But we're playing towards my condition. Because my condition is
I
better.
see.
on
So
mid
they
lane.
can use their pushing lane to come mid to stop you,
Exactly.
or they can use their pushing lane to punish bot, but then you can roam down.
Exactly.
I like it. So how are you liking? So team environment, how's everything going? You once again you were kind of getting hot dropped in.
Yeah.
How much time have you had to practice with the team? How much
Fragment West.
Fragment
Did you get
West?
a PK on drop? Or are we just sitting here with 30-30s on the drop?
30-30.
Oh my.
Oh,
At the
no,
start.
At the start. But
At
how
the
you doing
start.
now? You good?
Much better now. I think
Yeah.
people didn't have the time to remove their stress from the previous split. Tension here and there. You know how it is on
Yeah,
losing
yeah.
teams, especially with this format. You have 9 games, lose 4 or 5, almost over
Yep.
instantly. They started off 0-5, already giga stressed. People are worrying about their careers, whatnot, which is fair enough, fair as well, you know, because
Yeah.
I think Vin as well is on thin ice, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
because he's getting a lot of criticism here and there. So he's obviously like I can see the stress. I could see the stress that he had before as well. But now we talked it through. I was there for 1 week before LEC because Kobe was at home. I was at home as well, and
Yeah.
the other 3 were at the game house.
Yeah.
Scrim DRL at the start when we joined in. We put on this team scrimming really. We won those obviously, and then when LEC streams scrim started, we were getting pissed at it's crazy. I think the only way, like we won 1 game where we backdoored kind of, you know, where like with Herald, like they did 1 misplay and we were like stop their bases, I TP on the Herald and we tried to end, you know, and then we're like dying. The stat line in that game 9-30. That was the stat line. So you know it was a complete pistache. Like everybody. We won that game. Obviously scrims were still going shit, but we got into the house, we talked it out. The psychologist, sports psychologist helped us out, you know, as well. We talked through it together. We fixed our problems, our differences that we had in the last split, and now it's kind of a new beginning. It's a new beginning. But the thing is, we need some more time. The way Astralis was playing last split was to bot lane, because that's where the condition is. Boom, or like 1-3 was going to bot side all the time. So me and him were actually the worst mid jungle, I would say, in whole LEC in the scrim week that we were scrimming. But I think now we're like probably the best mid jungle together, playing together. We know what we want. But
Okay.
obviously there's more stuff we can fix.
Yeah.
So if you just give us more time, and I think we'll be more consistent.
You feel, I mean, the thing is like, you don't, as you highlight, you don't have a ton of time. But it sounds like you saw pretty immense improvement in that first week. Are you confident you can like keep up that rate of improvement? 'Cause usually in my experience, some of the basic stuff is really easy to figure out. But as you want to go into more complex ideas or like the deeper you go into the improvement, it's really easy to get from like F to C. Really hard to get from like C to A or whatever. However you
That depends on the individual, I would say. If you're getting along well, it's really, really easy to rank up. Like,
Yeah.
really, really fast, as long as people are as one unit.
Nice.
And they agree on each other. And right now we are. We are one unit. We're
Hell
listening to each other. We are on the same kind of ideas of how we want to play the game. And nobody's complaining. There's no tension whatsoever. And this is like a really, really good team environment. Obviously, winning helps as well. Like
Yeah. I mean, if you guys had an 0-3 week, this might have been a very different podcast.
maybe, I don't know. True. Because the environment was good no matter what. That also felt like even if we lost, I feel like it wouldn't have been that big. Because we were doing a lot of stuff outside of game at the time we had. So we bonded well.
What do you guys bond over?
Yeah, I was gonna say, what do you
Yeah,
want?
what's the secret? What's the Astralis secret to camaraderie? and brotherhood?
Walking to dinners and eating dinners. It's so simple, but it's so OP. Just the
Nice.
time that you just walk together, talk, and then sit down and eat on the same table together and talk to each other. I think that actually makes a big difference in how teams is doing so.
Are you guys all in the same gaming house? You like all living
You're
together?
sitting next to each other, living.
Yeah. No,
It helps.
I think the amount of time we've heard like environment is just everything. I feel like
Environment
every
is the
podcast,
story of this year. I
It
mean,
is.
it's weird how consistent we're seeing this, but I mean, we have two reminders right now, Fnatic and Excel, that like if people aren't getting along, no matter how good you are on paper, it just look a mess.
Yeah.
And SK, the initial poster child of the environment is good and the pieces are solid or have potential, you can make something great.
Yeah. I wonder.
Individual skill goes up. So
Yeah. Yeah. No. I wonder if that's a Western thing. Because I look at like the Eastern teams, and oftentimes you don't see teams like that just flop where you have big names on it. I guess the example could be like Longshim last year, where they had like Karma and BDB and Ghost who just looked like in the and stuff, and they struggled. But it seems consistent that the teams who have the big names are still there. You know, whereas if you look at Fnatic, you have Wunder, you have Reckless, you have Humanoid, off the back of these insane Worlds performances. If the environment's bad or you just don't mesh well together, it just falls apart.
I think the structure, coaching in Eastern teams is different as well. I think we have more of a chill approach stuff here. We let players do whatever they want to individually. So it's more on the players to get along and mesh well and all of that, more than it is looking at the videos and stuff. The Eastern coaches has a lot to say. The Eastern coaches can go crazy if they want to on the player. Yes, exactly. They can flame you, they can do whatever. If a coach flames you now in EVE, or even in an A, if someone like brings up their tone a little bit, they're gonna get benched. Either it's the coach or the players. It just that is true. So everyone is scared in a way as well, to take some
Takes some
leadership.
authority.
Exactly, authority. So that's that.
Yeah.
Leadership.
Interesting. Yeah, Western. I don't know. I haven't seen all Western coaches. I can't speak on behalf of all. I feel like players maybe in the West are a little bit more sensitive, or I don't want to say.
About sensitivity, I think that I think that one, I just want to acknowledge before we go further that none of us are an expert
speaking
on
hypotheticals.
Korean or Chinese culture or internal strength. We get what we get from talking to players, from talking to coaches. So there probably will be some assumptions made here. He's definitely not going to sweep. But I think that we've heard a lot over the years about cultural differences, a lot more in terms of because I know age hierarchy is obviously very important, and positional hierarchy is very important in Korea, and it feels like a much more cultural thing than it is here. Whereas at least from American culture perspective, and I can speak on because that's where I grew up, it's like everyone's their own special flower, and you don't have to just follow authority for authority's sake. And while that has a lot of positive things, it doesn't exactly set you up to be in a hierarchical environment in the same way that maybe a Korean Eastern team does.
It just makes more individuality, I think, in game if you think like that. Like you're not connected.
You're less of a unit in a way.
Exactly.
Because I think in the Eastern culture, from what I've seen from the behind the scenes, it's like the 5 players respect the coach so much, and no matter what the coach direction chooses, they all follow that direction.
Yeah, and even if they
blindly
don't like the guy, that's just the structure, and that's the structure that they've signed on for. And so whether that's a cultural thing or whether that's they have a team of them, it seems that those teams are good at following it.
But I think respect can be built upon flavor. Like if the coach comes to you and says and he's correct, and he says
It needs to be correct. That's the thing.
Yeah, and he's correct, and he says you inted here so badly, don't ever do this again. You in the moment you feel bad, but afterwards you feel quite thankful that someone's actually right behind you, just looking at your every move in a way.
I mean, I'm not. I think different people take feedback in different
That's true,
ways. I don't think the answer is, hey coaches, flame your
Stop
players, but
attacking
be right.
players.
You know what I mean? Some players need hard feedback for it to get
Yeah.
through to them, in the sense that I think some players need to be told, get your head out of your ass, and some players need it to be
Softer.
softer and gently fed to them. And I don't think there's a one size fits all approach.
It's about reading the person. I
Once
suppose.
again, it all comes from how you grew up as well, because like
Yeah.
you said, Eastern culture different than Western, age hierarchy, all of that stuff. So when someone says something to you, you will take it more seriously as well.
Yeah.
I asked Jong actually, how would the coach react in this situation? Not happy, he said.
Yeah.
Not happy.
Yeah, I was doing an interview with Bo, and
Yeah.
I was talking to him about coaching structure in the LPL,
Yeah.
and I was like, so talk to me about how is scrims going, how's the coach and stuff like this, and he said scrims are going good, but sometimes the games have over 20 kills, and I was like, is that bad? And he's like, yeah, if I was on FPX and the games had over 20 kills, coach would get really mad at me,